And we start in like 3, 2, and holy shit, we're back.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. It's only taken 3 months?
A few days.
A few days, right. Couple months. It's fine. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back. Or welcome, really, to the Turn-Based Cynics, everybody. This is season 1 of this show, and like season, like somewhere in the middle of season 4 of the original show.
Yeah.
Woo! Woo, it's been a ride. It has been a ride.
Yes.
Gonna say that much for sure. It has definitely been an experience preparing for this new format, this new show across everything we've been doing. It's been a creative nightmare for me personally. I'm just gonna say that it's a creative nightmare for me, a creative hell. It is not fun trying to create something from scratch and going, okay, how do I make this? What do I come up with? What is the idea here? Colddeath just said, make it happen. And I'm like, no. Oh no, he just let me do it. Didn't even try to stop me. Just said, yeah, I trust you, buddy.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's like, I trust you, dude. Just get it done. How long do I have? As long
Sitting
as
on
you...
the sidelines. Popcorn.
I'm like, how long do I have to get this done? He goes, how long is it going to take you? Shit. That's what you're going with. How long is it going to take me? The answer to that was like 2 months of 2 months of brainstorming. That's what happened. Oh goodness, CD, buddy, old pal. I've been diving deep into a game called Atelier for the last couple of weeks. It has been an experience. I wasn't sure what to expect. I've played a few Atelier games in the past. It is a blast. And it's super wholesome for the first like handful of hours. And then they start sprinkling shit on there that I'm just like, I wasn't ready for that game. What the hell? I wasn't signing up for that. Lint, the big buff dude with the sword, you see him on the box art. You find out that like his dad is an abusive drunk who like beat him and his mother around. I wasn't ready for that. That wasn't something I signed up for. So when that comes out, I'm like, bro, you wear a gauntlet on your fist. Next time this man talks to you, just pop him in the mouth like one time. Just boom, done, dealt with. There's nothing to talk about. This game
doesn't even take that long to find that out.
Yeah, and then the game like hit me with like the fact that this town sees that Rises doing like alchemy, and they all think it's like witchcraft. I wasn't. Yeah, like someone calls around and is like, as far as I'm concerned, all you're doing is magic. And she's like, what? He's like, yeah, you throw a bunch of random shit into a pot and then something completely unrelated. Something completely unrelated pops out of it. Like, that's fucking magic. And I'm like, huh.
Okay. That seems so wrong.
Yeah, you're not right.
Has a point.
You're not right, but you're also not. You're not wrong. Like, yeah, some of the shit I do is fairly fucking random.
It's certainly not just explainable by plain physics.
Yeah, no.
Or chemistry or something.
No. In fact, when it's explained, because Ryza doesn't know what alchemy is initially. She actually learns about it from another character, and then she takes up learning alchemy, which I thought was really interesting, because most Atelier games, the main character is already either a fledgling alchemist or is an alchemist by trade to some degree.
Okay.
But Ryza is not. When she finds out about alchemy and starts learning, that's when she first finds out about it. Yep. And boy, she really leans into this alchemy shit. She really, like, it's at one point her dad's like, hey, I need you to grab a scythe and help me reap all the product from the land. And she's like, I could buy a scythe, or
I can make one.
Yeah, I could legit just make one. And she does. You do. She makes an axe too. and a fishing rod from Alchemy as well, in case you were wondering. Alchemy, apparently Alchemy just fixed like all of her damn problems, because everything she does is with Alchemy now. She doesn't even give a shit. It's just, and the thing is, I talked about this on Discord where I'm like, the game's like, okay, you need A, B, and C to make this item. Well, you're gonna need D and E to make B, but then you're also gonna need B and C. You're gonna need like B and F to make C, and
and the list goes on.
And the list doesn't stop. It's a fantastic game, and I'm loving it, and I'm gonna definitely finish it. I'm looking forward to playing the sequel, because like I've fallen in love with these characters now. Now I'm like, oh, I care about you now. I care about these characters. I want to see them happy. So I can't wait to play Atelier Rise 2, The Thickening. If I may call it that. That's the appropriate name, because I mean, that's what happened. They were like, "Hey guys, you thought our first try at this character was too sexualized? Well, what if we just made her thicker?"
Even more.
Okay. So there's been that, and as you know, I beat Dragon Quest XI. I know I talked to you about this, but I haven't talked to the fans about that. I haven't talked to the viewers about this yet. I beat Dragon Quest XI all the way through. I saw the end credits. Gameplay file turned out at around 100 hours. So that's how y'all know I'm not messing around. There was no joke in here when I said that. Act 1 and 2, 9 out of 10. Easily. Almost a perfect game. Start at Act 3, solid 6 out of 10. Brings that game down a solid 3 points. By the end of Act 3, it's a solid 8 out of 10. Brought it back up 2 points. Man, I don't regret it. I really don't. It was a fantastic experience, but damn! If I could make a suggestion to anyone who wants to play this, play the S version. Don't play the original. Don't play the original. The S version adds enough content to this game, and having now played it and finding out what the S version did add and how it was different from the original, I can't imagine playing the original. I really can't. Okay. I feel like you're missing too much context. There's too much like.
Gonna have to see if I can pick it up in a sale or something.
Yeah, there's too much context missing. Because, like, there's things that happen that, like, in the original, you just kind of, like, wander into those situations with no actual context. But in the S version, they give you context for those situations that the main character walks into. Which, again, changes the perspective of it. Because you get to see what these characters are going through, and then the hero walks his ass into them, and then it's like, oh hey, I was just experiencing this. Oh, how do we get ourselves out of this problem? Ooh, fantastic. It's good though. It's good. I think the Switch version is definitely I'm happy I had it on Switch, because being able to take that with me anywhere was definitely a help, considering how much effort I put into crafting. God, that game and crafting, man. Holy shit. God damn. This game, dude, I put like 20 hours in the post game, and that was just to get me a handful of weapon sets and a handful of pieces of armor. That wasn't even like, I wasn't doing anything like ridiculous. It was just like, I want a couple of weapons. I want some crafting recipes, and I want my characters to look cool.
Quest for that, or was that just finding the material and stuff?
Mostly quests. It was like one of them, you have to go through this long 3 sets of trials and boss fights in order for me to get the stuff I wanted for one of them. The other one, you have to go through this challenge mode where it's like you have to divide your team members up based on what you're allowed to use for each of those fights, and then you have to beat all those fights within a certain amount of turns for that thing. So it might be like, defeat all 5 of these fights in 20 turns. Right? And those can be a little challenging, because, you know, we all have our favorite picks, right? We all have our favorites, right? So it's like, oh, I gotta do big damage really quickly. Well, I'm picking Jade for that? Shit. Oh, I want to like hit an entire group and fuck every single one of them up. Well, obviously the fucking hero. I got Giga Ash with that dude. He'll handle this no problem. 2 turns, dead.
Mm-hmm.
But then, you know, I still have like Serena, because at one point towards the end of like the 4th one, you have to use like everyone. Like it's required. Okay. And I had to look up strategies for this because it's not inherently apparent, because you can't just go by the names. You kind of have to like play them once, see what the fights are, and then go, okay, how do I get myself through this? Ugh. I did it. But I did it though. I'm proud of myself, but I did it. It didn't matter. I got through it. I'm not happy about it, but I did it. I got all this armor. I got all this equipment. And then I get to the final boss, and he still almost shit kicks me. Still almost kills me. Now
imagine what would have happened if you hadn't done the preparation.
I don't want to. I don't want to. He has a move where like he spirit bombs you with a giant ball of flame, but if you kill both of his arms before he lets the attack off, the ball just falls on top of him. It's actually really funny, but you have to set up for that though, because both of his arms have a lot of health, so you have to like you have to be gunning. You have to be gunning for that particular outcome. You can't just like accidentally get into that. That's a very much a very, you know, I'm gonna.
So you have to essentially break down the arms to low health before he starts that move.
And then when so that's been it. I mean, 2 really good games I've gotten to see the end of. Believe it or not, CD. With Dragon Quest XI being completed and the other game I was working on, I have officially now completed 22 games on my channel.
Nice.
22, sir. 22.
Wow.
Gerard, I'm coming for that ass. Don't get it twisted. I'm coming for that ass. I'm coming for that ass. You'll hear about me, Gerard. I promise you. You gonna know who I am by the time I'm finished. But what have you been doing, CD? What has been keeping your attention these last?
In general, I've been playing quite a few different games, but we'll talk about that later. The main games have been Tales of Grace's F.
Yeah. All right. I feel you.
I did complete that one back in the days when it was new on the PS3, but now, since I had the chance to try it again on a different system, unofficially.
Unofficially. Got it. Okay. I hear you. Yeah, I hear you.
I sunk quite a few hours into that one already, and still as good as I remember it, pretty much. I didn't remember all that much, especially story-wise. I do remember some parts, but obviously a lot of the details are gone since it's been quite a few years since its original release.
God, we were so young. We were much younger, bright-eyed children all those many, many years ago.
Speak for yourself. That's still the battle system. I still like it. It was pretty much the first one that used the new kind of battle system, not the MP one, but where you can essentially use your moves over and over and just wait a bit to regenerate your action points. Essentially your CP was it, and you have to optimize your equipment to have more of those, to use them more and all that. So yeah, and the dualizing that they use in this one, I've been making quite a bit of use of that. I don't quite remember if I did that back then as much as I do now. Probably not quite as much back then, but it seems like still a decent system. Not quite as complicated or detailed as the other ones that came later, especially the one in Zestiria.
Oof.
With all those with the well it was essentially a spreadsheet of skill points and advantages, disadvantages in that one.
Yeah, a little bit. Little bit.
Yeah. This one essentially just gives you, okay, you have your weapon or your armor, and you can combine that with a certain kind of, enhancing stone. And depending on what you combine it with, you get an additional bonus for it. And once you have that tempered, after you use it a few times in battle, you can then switch it out again to normalize the equipment and then combine it again and go up the +2, +3, +4, and so on.
Nice.
And you need a little bit of money for that in the game. Especially if you also continue buying new kinds of equipment, which that can become costly.
Yeah.
Story-wise, still nice.
Still nice?
Not as it's a relatively straightforward story so far, and I think it stays that way going on, but that's not a bad thing, honestly.
It doesn't have that Tales sort of mentality where it's like, yeah, things are all right, and then like shit hits the fan for like the last like 20 hours.
Not quite, because things go on a downturn pretty early on.
Oh, okay, so we're already there. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, it's essentially you have the prologue where you're still small children with the main characters. Something happens, a time skip happens, and then from then on, it's a slow downturn. It gets progressively worse, essentially, or rather, it shows you progressively what happened before that time skip, because there was something that happened that you don't realize at first, and then you slowly
find out
what happened.
Okay, all right.
It's nicely done, and I like the characters, so even if it's not as deep of a story as others like Berseria and Cesteria, obviously, as examples. Because, oh boy, those are...
Yeah.
This one, still keeps my attention.
You can definitely see, like, the growth in the franchise where, like, as these games did better sales-wise, like, if you think about it, from, like, Tales of Grace's F, which was, like, the first game where they actively said, if this game does well, we will keep making them. From that game and every game onward, they've progressively just been like, how much more can we put in this mechanically? How much more can we put in this? How much better can our budget be? And it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And then you get to Arise, and it's like...
Yeah, and even the games before Arise, none of those were really high budget. They were pretty low in comparison. But then Arise was the first one with the really high budget, and you notice.
Yeah, you can definitely see where those extra dollars, those extra dollars definitely went into like everything about Arise. You can't deny that.
Speaking of it, just recently they announced they reached 2 million in sales. So
God damn.
Here's hoping for the next one.
Oh, there's gonna be another one. There's gonna
obviously,
be. There's no way they're not gonna do another.
Oh yeah. It just doesn't announce something yet, but since they announced the 2 million units sold now, but it's obvious. It has been obvious since previously. They pretty quickly reached the 1 million with this one. So I'd say this one was a success, definitely.
Nice. 2 million.
Yeah.
Damn, Tales. All right. All right, guys. All right. You guys making them good titles out there. Good job. All right, now, buddy.
So Graces was the main one. Then there was... I had a short look into the new season of Diablo 3, just on a whim. Put a few hours into that, not much. Just wanted to see how it plays now with that season. if that's changed much since the last time. Because depending on the seasons, they do make some bigger changes over time with new equipment or skill rebalancing and even changing skills.
Yeah.
Because last time I played was quite a few seasons ago, and since then apparently they revamped the whole skills from all of the companions that you can hire. Because one, for example, I usually use the Enchantress as my main sidekick, and she has had one of the skills that changes enemies into chickens to temporarily make them defenseless.
As you
And
do.
well, she doesn't seem to have that anymore.
Hmm.
Instead, she has several. She has another skill. I think that one was either increasing my defenses overall or creating a pool that on the battlefield that does damage to the enemies. Not sure, but they did change those skills certainly, and obviously all the items did get rebalancings. But yeah, plays decently still. Probably not gonna be playing that for too long though. And recently I had a short look into Legacy again, which I played quite a bit on PC for a while, and just shortly a quarter of an hour before we started recording, I beat one of the bosses on that. I did just a temporary run and tried the boss again, and after several tries, I finally beat that one. So that was neat. That's still a neat game. Yeah, so that's been the games that I've been mainly playing recently.
All right. So, buddy, it's up to
Mm-hmm.
you. Do you want your segment first, or do you want my segment first? I do not care.
I think let's go with yours first.
Okay, remember, you asked for
Uh-huh.
it.
Sure.
You asked for it. All right, so
Mhm.
I'm naming this segment "Shit That Sony Has Done," and I'm naming it that because originally I was only going to cover just like the PlayStation Plus nonsense, but then like other nonsense had already
Mhm.
happened, and then because of my creative problems and coming up with the new show, they all kind of passed me by. But now I'm like, well, fuck, I got to talk about all of them. I
All
can't just not talk about them. So me. All
right.
right. So the first thing I want to talk about is a story that popped up a few days after Chrono Cross for Switch came out, and that was
Mhm.
a bug that was causing digital games to expire on both the
Right.
PS3 and the Vita.
Mhm.
This story is oddly very interesting because people were
Mhm.
finding randomly on their PS3 games that they had long since paid for were now having expiration dates of December 31st, 1969 and a few on like January 1st, 1970. And
Mhm.
these games were no longer working at all. You could not
It's
boot
an
them
oddly
up.
specific date.
You could not boot them up and you could not play them. Now, initially, when this story first popped up, it was solely just Chrono Cross that wasn't working, like Chrono Cross and Chrono Trigger. But thanks
Mhm.
to Foos TV on Twitter, who chroniclized this entire event in,
Mhm.
how could I say this, painstaking detail over a span of like
Mhm.
30 tweets. He chronicled it wasn't just that. It was other games such as I believe it was Final Fantasy VI for PS1 was not working. Um, multiple Final Fantasy 9 was also not working. There were some PS3 games that were not working that were
Hmm.
also expired. He went through what I can only imagine to be a multiple day event trying to contact Sony themselves to figure out what was going on. And in many cases, they just didn't get back to him in a timely manner, if at all.
What a
Fantastic.
surprise.
And let me see here. I actually had to look up my date for this because I wasn't entirely sure. Because I was like, okay, so Chrono Cross for Switch came out April 7th. The majority of these details spanned across April 10th, April 11th, April 12th. You keep and now by April 12th, it seemed like a lot of these games were now fixed, or it's hard to tell if this was like Sony doing some tomfoolery or if this was like a really weird instance of just a glitch. I'm not 100% sure because it's very inconsistent. It wasn't just like Chrono Cross and Chrono Trigger that stopped working. It was like Gex stopped working. Multiple Final Fantasy games stopped working. Vita games were also not working. Helldivers wasn't working. There were multiple games across these 2 days not working. And all this does is kind of hit home a point that we've talked about on this show before, and that is you really don't own this shit. Yeah. You really don't own this shit at all. It's yours in so much in the fact that you paid for it, but I would argue even then you still don't own this shit. They can turn this shit off the same way DP&L can turn off your power, dog. They can flip a switch and next thing you know every digital title is just gone. It was a very interesting story to watch unfold over the span of 2 days. And it seems like within a few days after this, the glitch was fixed. Sony never said anything, by the way. It's not like Sony ever addressed it or said anything or fucking told people, yo guys, don't worry, we got this. Sony didn't say shit. They kept their mouths fucking... They were quiet. Absolutely quiet. Not a peep from these people. People losing
Anything else would have surprised me.
People were losing their they should lose their goddamn money. I paid money for this. Like, I paid money for these. I don't have my PS3 hooked up at the moment because emulation exists, and
And even then, you paid for it. You should have the ability to access it.
Yeah, I paid good money for that shit. So yeah, that was the first thing that occurred that made me go, huh. And this was happening on like Vita too. It's oddly very specific. That was PS3 and Vita. And it was, like I said, it wasn't just hitting PS1 games. Though if it was just hitting PS1 games, I wouldn't have exactly been surprised. It wouldn't have like shocked me at all to know that Sony just magically cut off support for PS1 games on these old platforms, thinking nobody was paying attention. It wouldn't have shocked me.
Whoops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dog. No, wouldn't surprise me one damn bit. Another thing I wanted to talk about, and it's not as big of a story, but it was something that did come up, and it was something that kind of found that Sony finally has made available to be used, was VRR support has officially come to PS5. For those of you that don't know what VRR is, variable refresh rate, basically, it takes, it smooths things out when your frame rate isn't constant, right? So if a game has a constant 60, you don't need it. If a game is running at a constant locked frame rate, whatever, you're cool, right? But most games don't run at a locked frame rate. They tend to be variable. And with games these days, potentially going higher than 60, lower than 60, or anywhere in between, variable refresh rate just kind of keeps that shit, it evens it out, or at least it allows the display to kind of level that shit out to where
it adapts. Yeah, exactly. The display refresh rate gets adapted to the game.
So, this was a feature that Xbox already had at launch. Xbox already had this shit at launch. Sony was the only one who did not have this available for consumers at launch. So, only 2 years later, just gonna say that out loud. I guess better late than nothing. But still, kind of ridiculous to imagine that a feature when your console is already supporting HDMI 2.1 and all that brings, you didn't have this shit ready at launch. That just blows my mind. So, they make a big deal out of this about the games that will be receiving patches enabling VR support. So I'm just going to go through a few of them. Call of Duty, obviously. Let's be realistic for a second. Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition. Marvel Spider-Man Remastered and Miles Morales. Dope. I'm kind of looking forward to that. Ratchet and Clank, Resident Evil Village, Tiny Tina's Wonderland, Rainbow Six, and Tribes of Midgard, to name the ones that are coming up soon, are going to be getting patches for that. So I guess I'll pat you on the back, Sony, and say congratulations for being late to the party, but at least showing up. Fair enough. Fair enough,
and
Sony.
from what I've seen, the performance improvement from that is significant with some of the titles.
Yeah,
it was the Spider-Man ones that they named, where they get, I think, a 50% increase in comparison to keeping it locked to 30 or 60.
Oh, no shit.
That's pretty good.
Damn. Yeah, that'll do it. But now it's time for the thing that I have been... I've been waiting for this one, Mr. Death. I have been waiting for this one. So, because Sony can't just be Sony, they have to eat on Microsoft shit first chance they get and try to get more money out of people. Sony announced that they were going to be expanding the PS Plus offerings. They're going to be making them more vast and more fruitful for the wonderful people inside of the Sony walled garden. All right, so let's go over this. I want to break this down piece by piece, and we're gonna dive into some weeds here. So the first stage is PlayStation Plus Essential. Basically, PlayStation Plus is what you already have.
Yep.
Prices ain't changing there. It's $9.99 monthly, $24.99 quarterly, $59.99 yearly. Okay, fine. We already paying for that.
Yeah.
We already in there. But then we start getting spicy, CD. We start getting spicy. So PlayStation Plus Extra. Do you want the price first, or do you want what you get first?
Let's go with the price first.
Okay, price first. I'm gonna put this in American dollars. Sure. $14.99 monthly, $39.99 quarterly, $99.99 yearly. Keep that in mind. Almost double what you just paid for the Essential. And provides all the benefits from the Essential tier. Adds a catalog of up to asterisk 400 of the most enjoyable PS4 and PS5 games, including blockbuster hits from our PlayStation Studios catalog, third-party partners. Games in the extra tier are downloadable for play. Now, just to quote, I'm pulling this directly off the PlayStation blog. Okay, cool. So $100 a year, and you get like upwards of 400 games that you can download and play. Okay? But then, Mr. Death, you get the Rolls Royce of tiers. You get the PlayStation Plus Premium, Triple P, Mr. Death, Triple P.
Yeah.
At $17.99 a month, $49.99 a year, $49.99 quarterly, and $129 yearly. Provides all the benefits from the priors. Adds up to 340 additional games, including PS3 games available through cloud streaming, a catalog of beloved games available in both streaming and download options for the original PS2 and PSP generations, offers cloud streaming access for the original PlayStation, PS2, PSP, and PS4, as by the other tiers, and then time-limited game trials will also be offered in this tier, so customers can try select games before they buy them. Okay, all right. Let me go.
Not exactly just select games, because they recently said that they require companies to make demos for their games.
But didn't they also say? But wasn't I'm pretty sure they said that Sony was going to be the one in some cases doing making those demos. Because Sony has because that came up.
Yeah, they're gonna make demos for their games probably, but from what I've remember, they also said they require other game developers to make demos.
So fantastic. Put more work on other developers to support your weird scheme. Okay, so let me go over my skepticism here. Okay, my blatant, honest skepticism. A couple things that make me incredibly skeptical here. One, I don't trust Sony with bringing PS2 games into this, because we saw their limited PS2 support on PS4. Like all 7 of these PS2 games they brought to PS4, like all 7 of them, my dude, 7. There was like 7 games for PS2 on PS4 available digitally. And while some of those were good games, that's all they did, dog. That's it. That's all they tried. So I'm not exactly feeling very confident in this company providing me with enough to justify the seemingly large gap in cost here. I find it now also, I guess I don't really value cloud streaming. I guess that's probably also a thing for me. I don't really value cloud streaming as I won't even say as an option, but as a utility, I don't really value it that much. Yeah. So to me, in a lot of ways, I feel like the only thing I'd be even remotely interested maybe would be PS Plus Extra, and that would really depend on what those 400 asterisk title games are.
Yeah.
Really, it would depend on that, and even then, I mean,
we already know that it's not gonna be day one release.
They're not doing a game. They're not doing Game
their
Pass.
New blockbusters and all that. Nope.
Yeah, they're not. They're not gonna be Game Pass here. They're not trying to be that. So, if you're gonna be charging, consumers basically double for the same benefits,
probably,
yeah.
It's probably gonna be whatever they have available now on PlayStation Now in terms of PS4 and PS5 games.
And then
because they're essentially merging PS Plus and PS Now with this whole thing.
Okay, fine, I get a bunch of last gen and this current gen games through the essential through the plus tier, but then the premium, bro, you charging me $20 to be able to stream PS3 games. I'm kind of curious, is PS3 emulation for Sony that out of reach? Is PS
I don't think it's out of reach. It's probably they think it's not worth the investment. Probably. Because they'd have to. I'd imagine the PS5 chipset should be strong enough if they have a good enough emulator. And who, if not Sony, should be able to make a good enough emulator for a PS3 system?
I don't know, man. I look at this generally speaking, and I'm this sounds cool, but if my goal was to get playable games and have a robust library of games I pay a subscription for, I would still probably pick Game Pass. I still feel Game Pass by and large is just a better overall situation. I don't really
a lot of price per game. Yeah.
As far as me trusting that Sony isn't just gonna throw a bunch of garbage on here and claim that they're giving us a deal. Like, you know,
Especially since you have to account with Game Pass, you have to account for the Ultimate version, which includes PC.
yeah.
So you're up to you're at around the price of the I
Second
think in
tier.
between extra and premium.
Yeah, you're about $100 a year if you go for like
Mm-hmm.
Game Pass Ultimate for 1 year because
Mm-hmm.
they only offer it in one
Right,
month
yeah.
increments and in 1 year increments. So
Mm-hmm. I think it's 15 per month,
yeah, it's
I think,
15 per month.
and 100 per year, which is for what Game Pass Ultimate offers, that's a pretty good price, especially given that all their own titles are there day one. And you, there are quite a few games on there, and they have quite a few additions over time. Obviously, they also leave Game Pass after a while, but a lot of it's really a lot. So, yeah, I'd say that's the better offer at this moment. Unless there are titles in PlayStation Plus Extra that you really want, which are exclusive to a Sony platform.
Just I don't know, man. I'm not feeling it. I don't feel very much more compelled to like not just leave, to just not just keep what I already have and just keep
Mm-hmm.
that. They've
Yeah,
also
just the essential. That's fine.
I have noticed it came out that they recently like stopped people from stacking.
Which, yeah, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah,
I get
like
it's kind of an if you hear about it, but if you think about it, it does make sense since I mean, obviously, not a lot of people are going to be buying just additional subscription time in large amounts to
no, I
just
think I have like
do that.
I have 2 years
But yeah.
stacked for like PS Plus, but that's because it
Mm-hmm.
goes on sale on like other sites for like a year. So if it's on
Mm-hmm.
sale at like
Yeah.
$30, I'm not gonna pass that up. So,
Yeah, obviously. That's fine.
all
And
right,
especially for us essential users, it's not gonna make much of a difference. But
I I
yeah.
I am very curious to know what they do with
Mm-hmm.
this whole time limited game trials. I want to know what I want
Mm-hmm.
to see how that plays out. Like
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's
because
the thing that has me curious.
what they did say is they're gonna they plan to make with all games that cost more than $35, they need to have a 2-hour trial / demo attached to them.
Wow. I feel like that's
So for cheaper titles, that's not required, that's good. Because if you have a title that costs about $20 or something like that, then making an additional trial or demo would be a significantly higher cost addition to it in percentage than with a full price title.
yeah. Oh, wait, are you implying that like they like because like the game would
Mm-hmm.
already cost what it would cost. They would just have to make a demo. Do you think that they would be like, oh well, we're gonna have our game at this cost. Oh shit, we have to make a demo. All right, let's raise the price to offset the fact that we gotta have to put in more work and make a
Possibly,
demo for the game. Like that would I could definitely see that being a thing, right?
potentially, especially for the lower cost titles, that would potentially be a factor that they would have to count into the development. Or even if they don't put in make it a higher price, they would have to take the time from development away to make the demo.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially something would suffer. Either the price would go up or they'd have less features or less time to develop.
Yeah, or they'd have to like
So one of the things would
make a
change.
lesser game to cover for the fact that they
Yeah.
don't want to necessarily have to go through and like chop up their game and make a demo. Like I don't know, maybe
Hmm.
that's a potential.
Yeah.
All right, well, CD, that is
Hmm.
all for my Sony segment. that I like to call "What the fuck has Sony been up to?" I want to make
Uh-huh.
a small note before I kick it over to you. Everybody, I am not
Uh-huh.
a fanboy of Sony. The main reason I stick with Sony is convenience and comfort. By and large, Sony has the RPGs usually on their platform. They've been this
Mm-hmm.
way since like the PS1, so I stick with them. Now, have I
Yep.
slightly started to shift towards Nintendo Switch a little bit? Yeah. Yeah, can't
Mm-hmm.
deny it. Nintendo Switch out here eating on Sony's plate.
Mm-hmm.
Sony was eating good out here, but now Nintendo's taking their fork and just slowly just, you know what I mean? When you sitting at the dinner table and that family member sitting right next to you with this fork is like slowly taking food off your plate. That's what's
Mm-hmm.
happening to Sony right now. Nintendo's eating out here. They eating.
Mm-hmm.
But understand, this isn't a
Yeah.
fanboy. This is just a guy who has stuck with Sony. And I don't have a lot of reason to jump over to Microsoft in any way, shape, or form. I've tried. I
I
just
mean,
don't have much.
if you'd be a fanboy, you would be defending this move by Sony.
Yeah,
So
I wish I
that's
could.
the proof.
I wish I could. I really do. I wish I could.
Uh,
All right.
yeah.
Well, CD, the
So
the chair is yours.
yeah, there's been a small development in games and game systems recently,
I'm listening.
since weekly mails are going out by Valve. And, well, I was one of the relatively early lucky ones with the Steam Deck, which is a nice little system. As it's been advertised, pretty much a full PC in compact size, which, well, if you see, it's a bit thicker than a Switch and a bit bigger, but still a decently handheld system. Obviously doesn't fit in your pockets unless you have really big pockets.
Yeah, I think that's a Linus tech tip thing though, where like he
Mm-hmm.
reviewed like the Switch and the Switch Lite, and he does the pocket test for both. He does the pocket test for
Uh-huh.
both of them, as if that's somehow practical.
I mean, with the light, I could see it more than with the deck.
Yeah, you would need
I
definitely
can't
cargo
imagine having
pants.
trousers with. Yeah, I can't imagine wearing trousers that have big enough pockets for the Steam Deck. So it's good that they just ship you a case with it, which is
Mm-hmm.
good. Small carry case where the system fits in. So, well, as I've already told you over the weeks since I have the system, I've been playing quite a few different games on it, trying them out, trying out all kinds of games, even games that you wouldn't really play on a handheld, given the controller on it. Like, I even tried out something like Caesar 3, I think it was, which is essentially a SimCity style game, but playing in Rome. So you have to essentially navigate the mouse, and with that, which
Okay, I'm
the
listening.
which the touchpads here are decently workable for that. So it's not a complete bust in terms of that, but it's obviously not optimal. So I wouldn't really recommend just mainstay playing games like that on the Switch if you don't have an external mouse or keyboard connected to it, which you can do with essentially any dock that has a USB Type-C connector. Then attach a keyboard and mouse to it,
Mm-hmm.
which should work
All right.
perfectly fine. But besides those types of games, I have also been trying out all kinds like Tales of Berseria, Rogue Legacy, which I've been playing on it, and all kinds of other platformers, RPG games, everything that you can play well with a controller. Quite a few of them work, even though they're either untested or even some that are marked unsupported still by Valve. So obviously they can't really handle all the games on Steam in
No,
terms of
it's
a
not.
timely testing.
No, that's not feasible in any way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm. But pretty much everything that I've tested, besides a few uh, bits, worked nicely. With, for example, what was it? Fairy Fencer F Dark Forces. That one didn't really work, just had a black screen.
Huh.
And probably something with the video codec at the beginning that just clashes with it, but many of the JRPG type games work fine. Tales of Berseria, it was, I think, still marked unsupported, but worked fine for me and controls really well with it. Obviously, I mean, that's very optimized for a controller,
Yeah. I'm
and the
listening.
display is nice. The model that I have is the 512 gigabyte SSD one, and I also added another micro SD card with that amount of space to it.
Oh, well, shit.
So, yeah.
Shit. So
So I can.
storage is not a inherent issue here, then, is it? It's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's not
Yeah.
an inherent. So like load times wise, like for these games, do you
Load times
notice?
from the SSD are obviously pretty good. From the micro SD, some are probably gonna be slower, but shouldn't be too bad.
Do you have a choice about where you install the games, or do
Yep.
they just
Yep.
okay? So you can choose where they
I
go.
can set that myself. I can set that myself.
Okay, all right, nice,
Just
nice.
like not exactly like with the regular desktop Steam where you get asked that, but I just set the default install space and then it automatically gets installed there. So
And more than likely,
that's fine.
if you were going to fill up your actual SSD, it would just default back over
It's
to the SD card. More than likely,
very
anyways.
likely, very likely. Although I haven't tried that out yet. I
We
haven't
have.
completely filled up either.
I noticed at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Have you tried like you said you tried like newer stuff as well,
Mm-hmm.
like Horizon perhaps? Was that one?
I haven't tried that one out yet, but it's supposed to work well. It's set on verified, so it's supposed to be working
Okay.
neatly. And I've seen someone play, for example, Final Fantasy 15, and that one
Ooh.
works well as
Oh,
too.
really? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
and
Shit. Oh.
and I mean it's been in the news that, for example, Elden Ring worked better on it than on Windows.
That is such a weird. Like when I saw that story, my first thought was like,
Mm-hmm.
y'all taking the piss. Y'all not really serious. But then like I saw it, I'm like, well, shit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, damn, Valve, you fucking out here
Yeah.
making a piece of hardware that runs it better than most people's PCs do. Shit. Okay, damn. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
Let's
And they're still
go.
working on the system itself quite nicely. What they currently have in the works is, for example, that you can set the refresh rate to not 60, but for example 40, which would then make it better to use a game that does work better than 30 frames, but doesn't reach a stable 60, and then you still can have a bit of a better battery runtime if you
Ah,
set the display to 40, because
right.
the internal graphics chip doesn't have to work as hard.
Right. Because that's one thing that is going to get brought up.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
is it's a handheld. It lives and dies by its battery, which I was
Mm-hmm.
mildly amused to see that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I know we've talked about it, but I was mildly amused to not hear like Steam pull like an Apple kind of thing and be like, well, if you buy a certain model,
Mm-hmm.
you get like a bigger battery or whatever. But if you buy the
Yeah.
lower model, you'll get the
Mm-hmm.
default battery, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak.
The
I was
light battery.
right. Yeah, you get the
Mm-hmm.
normal battery, and people who buy the bigger version of it get the expanded battery.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I mean, things with like other systems like smartphones and tablets and all, I can understand it more because they have a variable amount of space in the case.
Mm-hmm.
So you can put in a bigger battery in the bigger and more costly one. With this one, obviously you can't, since it's the same size with all of them.
Right. You
Doesn't
don't
matter
really...
if you have the cheapest or the highest system. But battery life, they officially say 2 to 8 hours. I doubt that you'd reach the 8 hours with anything, even the low power requirement games like
Binding of
2D
Isaac
stuff. For example, yeah, that one works as well. That one I tried out.
I would love.
Works quite decently.
I would love to see someone at Steam like justify that 8 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not saying you got to prove it. I'm just saying I would like to hear like an example from them in their testing where they hit 8 hours. It has to be you're just sitting on like a menu screen, like doing nothing on idle.
Probably something like going into desktop mode and just editing text or something like that.
Yeah,
with an external keyboard. Maybe. I'm not sure how exactly that turned out.
So when you're like adjusting like visuals,
6 to 7 is probably reachable with the lower games, I'd say.
So when you're like adjusting visuals and stuff on a per game basis, like how are you usually aiming that for your experience? Are you usually aiming towards like, I want it to look the best it can, you know, because I know you've said that you keep it plugged in quite a bit. So you're probably not aiming at the battery life. You're just aiming at like a visual. Are you just aiming at a visual experience, or are you looking at like...
Depends very much on the game. Since it's a smaller screen, I can get away with turning down the quality without noticing it really all that much.
Just to reiterate to anyone who's watching and or listening, the screen clocks in somewhere around the 720p. It's not exactly
it's
7.
It's an 800p screen.
Yeah, it clocks
so
in.
It has 80 pixels more in the height.
Yeah, so...
But yeah, it's a, what was it? I think 7-inch screen, and clocks in at 1280 by 800 pixels, which is, for the size, it's a good resolution. That works really well.
Damn.
And you have the option, for example, if you have a game that needs quite a bit of power, you can use AMD's FSR and select a lower resolution internally, which gets modified up. It gets up-resed with kind of an AI, like with NVIDIA's
DSLR?
I think it's DSLR or DSLR. Yeah, it's an internal AI up-resing of the graphics, which in most games, unless you have small text on it, still looks perfectly fine. Obviously, some details might get blurred out, but that's only things like small stuff in the background.
Right.
Pretty much everything else looks fine.
Stuff that you probably might not even like pay that much attention to on a screen of that size.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Even if it would be regular quality, you probably couldn't read it anyway, or couldn't really notice what it is on the small screen. So there, you can use that to get more battery life out of it, since that obviously uses a significantly less amount of power. Either better battery life or a significantly better frame rate.
Have you tried
3D games?
I know I have some friends who've already like put like Windows on it. Has that been
no, I don't plan to.
You don't really? You're not gonna dig into the weeds on that one, because I know quite a few people who've already like put like Windows on it and are like running stuff through Windows. That just seems, I don't know, man. That just seems like a lot of effort. Maybe I think that's just me being lazy, though. Maybe I'm just the lazy one here. I might be the console peasant.
It works well enough on Linux, and everything they do is optimized for it. So the whole interface is especially on that system. They will at some point replace the big picture mode with this new interface on Steam, but for now, it's not gonna be really an option. And I don't think they even have all the drivers out yet, or at least not optimize them all at this point. But it's easy to do. It is a full window. It is a full PC, so you can put Windows on it easily. There's just no official dual boot option available yet, so you have to essentially replace the existing OS.
Oh, I was about to
They'll
ask.
do that at some point. They'll probably do that at some point, but it's not there yet.
Okay, so it's not like you're dual
They're
booting.
obviously focusing.
You're just full on replacing the OS with when.
Yeah.
Huh. I did not know that. The more I learn. Well,
you can obviously afterwards restore the original OS. There is a image that you can get from Valve for that, but not worth it for me so far. Everything that I want is workable with it, and I can just go to desktop mode for some things, like some emulators work better on the desktop mode, since you have a launcher window and the game window for some, and you can't really switch in between them well enough in game mode. But besides that,
so
most things I've tried work fine.
So the games that you've tried, so you said most games tend to work. So the handful of games that you have tried that didn't work, were they just like video, or was it like a control thing? Because I've heard that the controller part of it can sometimes also kind of play into whether or not a game is like compatible or not. Or has it just been like you boot it up and you just got nothing?
Mainly it was nothing. That either it just didn't run, or it didn't run well enough. Although with the Rogue Legacy, I just could switch it to the Linux runtime. I didn't know that at first try, because when I first tried it, I noticed it runs really slowly. So that was an issue with the emulation layer in between, because it's obviously per default runs the Windows version. So when I switched it over to the Linux runtime for that, works fine now. But with other stuff, like, for example, as I mentioned, Fairy Fencer F, that one just has a black screen at the start, and I can't really continue on. Some titles are marked either unsupported or untested because of controller issues, but most of them that I tried, I could work around it, because the touchscreen also activates the menu entries. So if I couldn't at first use the controller to start the game, I could just select the options through the touchscreen, and afterwards, once the game runs, I can use the controller.
Because one thing I have seen, or I have heard about the Steam Deck that has me, like, I won't say interested, but mildly interested, is that it's like an emulation beast. Like, everyone I've heard about has been like showing off what it can do. There was a story that I forget who did it. Someone did a review of the Steam Deck, and they had the Steam Deck emulating Switch games, and Nintendo pulled that shit down. Nintendo shut that shit down. They shut that shit down immediately. Lights out, gone.
But I can confirm that works.
That is a very interesting use for a very interesting proposition, given the platform.
Since I also mentioned Tales of Graces before, that's one of the games that I can run on it. And it works almost perfectly. There's a slight issue with cutscenes and all, but they're slightly out of sync, because the Tales games have the issue that they run 30 FPS usually, but then switches to 60 when you're in battle. And you have to switch, put the settings in specifically for that in the emulator, and I think that causes an issue when it plays the cutscenes. For one, those that are completely running in the in-game graphics or the skits, they are slightly out of sync in terms of audio and video, but it's not too bad, I think. Some things are a bit out of sync, but it's not unplayable, certainly. And everything else works perfectly.
That reminds me of the ridiculous case that Final Fantasy VII was when it launched. Like the game when you're not in battle runs at 30, but then you get into battles, but the battles themselves run at sub 30, but the menus run at 60.
Huh. The original is 7.
Mm-hmm. The menus themselves run at a higher refresh rate than the actual battle animations and everything else going on. It's a really interesting. It's one of the reasons why like Final Fantasy VIII on when they remastered Final Fantasy VIII, why that game didn't always run the way why that game would feel off, because they locked all the battles. They locked all the battles at 30. The problem when you do that is...
Which also locked the menu to 30.
Yeah. The problem when you do that is when you have button presses like Renzo Kuken that require those button presses to be seen at 60 for them to feel right, for anyone who's actually played the game, it throws it took me a solid couple episodes.
Throws your timing off, yeah.
Yeah, you have to adjust your timing. So that's a really interesting situation to see.
Yeah, that was an issue with the Chrono Cross remaster as well.
Really? Oh yeah, that was a trick Square used a lot. They used that menu and gameplay thing at different refresh rates.
I'm not sure if Chrono Cross has that, but the problem is that the remaster is also packaged in an emulator, and it works worse than the original system. Without patching it.
I don't know how they do that.
Without an official patch.
I don't know how they do that.
It works worse. And in battles, the frame rates go so low that it can just swallow your inputs.
Oh, fantastic.
It just doesn't recognize your button presses when you need to do them.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah.
You paid money for this, didn't you? You paid.
Well, I didn't.
You paid money for this, didn't we? Okay. Cool.
Yeah, cool. People that got the Radical Dreamer edition, they even if it's just 20, I think. Even that's no, in that state, too much.
I hope they patch that. I really hope.
Yeah, I do hope, because that's an easy patch to put it up to the same performance.
It wouldn't be difficult. I don't feel like that would be. So I wanted to. I told you about this when we last talked. We talked like last week while we were getting ready for the new show, and I was like, man, the reviews I've seen for this console have been eye-opening. I don't watch a lot of like gamer YouTubers, so to speak, right? I tend to stick more to like the tech side, and if you're familiar with tech oftentimes ends up intersecting with gaming anyway. So I'll oftentimes see both perspectives. And boy, I've seen a variety. I've seen perspectives as far to one side as the Nintendo Switch killer, and then I've seen like the Steam Deck is a unpolished dream or something like that. It's an unpolished, unrefined mess.
Whatever,
unfinished mess that I love or something like that. But I mean, they're apparently put out.
I'd agree with the unfinished part, but that was always gonna happen with this kind of system.
Right, because it's software. It's all software at that point. And, it's just gonna get patched, and they're gonna, I mean, and not to mention, a thing in the tech world is early adopters always get the worst version of anything that gets created. I mean, let's be realistic.
And to be fair, if this is the worst version, then I'm loving it.
Right. Like early adopters always get screwed on some level,
Mm-hmm.
and then people who pick it up later. There's a reason why I've always said I don't buy consoles in the first year. I always wait one
Mm-hmm.
year
Yeah.
because it takes about a year, give or take, for the gremlins to get worked out, and then by the time I
Mm-hmm.
buy the thing, it's usually where it should be. So,
Yeah.
you know,
It's either you have enough updates for the system itself, or you get a new hardware revision because something got fixed. Because that's the same with the PS5. They did have a revision that they changed with the cooler. I think it was that it had less. I think it was a slightly smaller or more lightweight cooler
hmm.
because they measured that they changed something there. I think it might have been a slightly smaller cooler there, but not the fan, but the
The
copper
actual,
part. I
yeah,
think it was.
the actual heat
Yeah.
sink.
The heatsink, right? Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. They changed that slightly, but apparently, in terms of temperature, there wasn't really a. It wasn't really worse. It might have been pretty much the same. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, that was they do those revisions pretty early on once the system is en masse with the people they use it, and then they obviously notice things that they couldn't notice before.
Right, because
Yeah,
like you
with this
know,
one, yeah.
yeah, it's like with anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't really know how your product is going to do until you get it into the
Yeah.
unwashed masses'
Mm-hmm.
hands, and they do some jacked up shit with it. You
Uh-huh.
know what I mean? Like you don't know.
Yeah.
No one at Valve is gonna sit there and try some degenerate shit on that console. They're gonna just
Mhm.
play it the way that like they probably are expected to be like it works. But then you get to like the
Mhm.
consumer, and the consumer's like, "Hey, what if I pressed all these dials all at the same time? What happens then? Crash? Well, now we know.
Whoops. Yeah.
Now we know.
Mhm.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Those. I remember just recently I've seen a Twitter post. Well, sadly, it's not cat proof. Because apparently some cat batted it from the table or something,
Oh
and yeah, the
no.
screen was broken. It
Is
still
it
worked.
is it glass or
System still worked, but
plastic?
this display. I think it's glass
I mean,
because especially the highest version has a what do they call it? They have an additional um refinement of it. How do they call it? Let me check here with the reserve because they do show a different. Yeah, it's an anti-glare etched glass with the highest one. The lower ones have regular glass essentially, but the higher one has some anti-glare etching with the glass, which that's the version I went with. And yeah, it's fine.
it's fine.
It's good.
All
Yeah.
right.
It's a good. The anti-glare does help. I think I don't have a comparison for with the other one, obviously, since I just got one of them. You
Right.
can only get one. I think even if you have one of them, even if you already got it by with the pre-order, I don't think you can get another one
Oh,
currently.
I wonder. I mean, you need like a Steam account, anyways, don't you? Like to buy one,
Well,
you need.
that too. Yeah, you need a Steam account that has been active for I think a certain amount of time. I'm not sure if it's a year or several months at least.
Yeah.
And you have to have had something bought on there.
Oh,
So you
okay,
can't just
yeah.
make a new Steam account. You can't just make a new Steam account and then just order one. That's a smart decision, honestly, because that way you at least make sure that not as many of them get snatched by scalpers,
Yeah.
which obviously still has happened with a few of them.
Yeah, you can't
Hmm.
stop these fuckers.
You
You
can't
can't do it.
completely stop
Yeah,
that,
no, you
but
can't. It's not
but
possible.
that was a decent precaution there
So
on Valve's part.
before we wrap up,
Hmm.
did this thing have a dock? Was that a thing?
There's not an official dock out yet. They are making one, and it's gonna come out this year still.
Okay, I didn't know if that was included.
You can use any USB Type-C dock that you can get.
Okay.
So I just bought myself one on Amazon that has a USB Type-C port connector, and I use that and connected it to an external hard drive dock so that I can just download a mass of games to test.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I had to do some additional finagling to get the external hard drive to work because that's not officially supported yet. But it's easy to do. Just do a bit of reading and set up a few things in the desktop mode, and then works fine. 6 terabyte hard drive connected to it, and
Jesus,
space.
Jesus.
So, which games do I want to download? Yes.
Jesus, you know what? Like, no. Before we wrap this episode up, people give me shit. I get so much shit from like my own personal friends, like people who have known me, who are like, "Why do you need, 2.5 terabytes of SSD storage in your PC? That's ridiculous. Why don't you just buy normal hard drives? Why do you use SSDs?" And I'm like,
for a PC, SSDs all the way.
I'm like, you don't understand. Definitely. Like, once you've used an SSD, you can't. It's not possible.
You can't go back.
You can't go back.
Exactly.
And look, I get it.
I just use the additional hard drive for testing. I'm not using that for my mainstay games. Those are internally on the SSD all the way.
It's like, man, people are like, well, you can't tell a difference. I'm like, then you've clearly never used an SSD.
Oh, yeah.
You clearly have never You clearly have never used an SSD.
Exactly.
Clearly. You've never had a boot drive. Clearly. That's the only that's all you're telling me.
I replaced the hard drive in my PS4 with an SSD, and even there I notice.
Yeah, you're gonna notice. It's very noticeable.
Yeah, with Horizon Forbidden West, if you open the minimap with a regular hard drive, you wait a bit for the additional icons and your waypoint markers to appear. With SSD, no such wait.
Yeah, see? You notice.
So yeah, even smaller things you notice.
All right. Well, everybody, this has been the first episode of the newly relaunched Turn-Based Cynics. We are, of course, available on YouTube as the Turn-Based Cynics, and you can also find us on a variety of podcasting platforms such as Spotify, Apple Casts, Google Casts, Pocket Casts, sweet Jesus, Stitcher. There's too many. Or Anchor. I know some of you use Anchor.
Anchor is our main provider currently, and everything gets spread out from there.
Yeah, everything goes from there. So I hope you have enjoyed the newly relaunched show. It's been a refreshing take on an old show, and I'm looking forward to the future, whether you're looking forward to it or not. If everything else being said, everybody, have a fantastic week, fantastic weekend, depending on when you're listening to this, and we will see you all next time.
See ya.